What has been our top story this morning, these images, and they are shocking, from the state of some of the homes at the Cat Lake First Nation in Northern Ontario. There's going to be a meeting in Ottawa today, the government, local leaders as well, to talk about the crisis. And it's significant. 128 homes, the recommendation that 87 of them be torn down because they're uninhabitable. Those images, and you see here in these pictures from Charlie Angus, who's the NDP critic for Indigenous Affairs. He was invited to Cat Lake First Nation. He's been there. He, as I said, supplied these pictures and video to us, and he's giving us some time as well this morning to tell us what he saw. Mr. Angus, thanks for coming back on the program this morning.
Thank you so much.
You know, we talked over the years, we've seen you over the years, unfortunately, seeing firsthand conditions similar to those which we're seeing in those pictures and video. You've been various times on various Canadian First Nations. How does Cat Lake compare?
I've seen some very difficult situations in many communities. I was invited into Cat Lake expecting to see, a housing crisis, but I was pretty shaken up by what I saw of the damage that's being done to the bodies of the children and to elders from this exposure to mold. We saw heartbreaking scenes. And,
let me just interrupt. We're going to bring in some of those pictures, and they are a little bit difficult to look at, I have to say, in terms of the health of the housing crisis that you expected is, in fact, a full-blown health crisis. What concerns you most? What did you see that was most concerning?
What was really disturbing was that in every single home we were in, we saw puffers. We saw people have all manner of ailments that were, really difficult to explain, like lupus, diabetes. Now, is that tied to mold? I don't know, but it seems to be the breakdown of the body's immune system. Children with horrific impetigo, eczema, continual bronchitis, pneumonia. They said to us when we walked into the first home, they said, you should wear a mask. And we saw little children in those homes. They said, you'll start to feel sick by the end of the day. And yeah, by the end of the day, we were popping Tylenols. You could feel it in your throat. Children should never have to live this way in Canada. And what we're seeing is a manifestation of the mold crisis that's existing in communities across this country, from the substandard buildings that Indian Affairs year after year puts up these cheap buildings and says there, you got 2 or 3 units, even though the community may need 50 or 60, 17, 20 people move into those homes because there's no other place to live. And then the homes immediately start to deteriorate because they're so badly built. And
as I said, most of them considered uninhabitable and needing to be torn down. Now, as I listened to you speak, as part of our coverage, we spoke to, at CBC News, the Liberal MP for the region, Bob Nault. And he said, in response to some of the issues and the things that you have said, it's Charlie Angus being Charlie Angus over the top, as he always is, if I can quote him. Are your statements, is this hyperbole, Mr. Angus?
Well, I'd ask the Canadian people to look at those pictures and then ask that Liberal MP, why does he think these people merit less than people in other parts of his riding? I was asked to go in because he's done nothing on this file. I was asked to go in because Seamus O'Regan's gone missing in action. People asked us to come in because they're saying, where is the Canadian government? Are we part of this country called Canada of immense riches when people are living in such destitution? So that's the question I put to this government.
Seamus O'Regan, to be fair, is very new to this file in Cabinet, and he is speaking today with some of the local leaders whom you know. They're going to be talking long-term strategy, yes, but I want to focus for this last question on short-term fix. What do you want, Minister O'Regan, to do right now?
We need immediately an independent health team to go in and assess what's happening on the ground with the children, with the elders who are becoming incapacitated from illness. Number 2, we need the Jordan's Principle model, which legally forces the government to act, to be brought in to deal with any child with any manner of illness, that the government will have to turn that around within the 48 hours. And number 3, we're going to need to start moving some emergency trailers up. Some of the shacks that we saw that had families in them, they cannot stay in that there over the winter. So far from the government, we've heard vague promises, but last week they were offering to send up electrical switch covers to the community in response. So they're going to have to stop doing the panic dance and get down and get serious. And the minister has to go. He's new to this file. Well, he needs an education. He needs to be in Cat Lake. And until the minister's in Cat Lake, I don't think he can be really taken seriously on this file.
as Charlie Angus says, a situation that has been highlighted across the country for years now. A situation that could be leading to some various serious health concerns. These are difficult pictures to look at, again, supplied by Charlie Angus, but showing skin conditions, rashes that many of these children have. Children have, upon occasion, have to have been flown out for help, unable to go to school because of the disfiguring nature of some of these. For the local band, the concerns that they have that this is a direct result of the living conditions. Let's listen to Derek Spence.
A lot of respiratory problems, and then there's a lot of skin conditions such as eczema and so on. There's a number of different diagnoses. Some of our people have gained long-term illnesses because of the air they breathe in. The air quality is not very good because of all the bacteria caused from the mold.
John, Derek Spence going to be talking more about those conditions later in this hour. It's he who's going to be speaking to government officials, including the new minister. How is the government responding thus far?
Well, the new minister, Seamus O'Regan, you mentioned there, he has talked about the ongoing efforts to improve living conditions on First Nations around this country. And of course, this has been a priority of the federal Liberal government, not only clean water for Indigenous communities, but also the aspect that so many of them need better living conditions. It's also worth noting, though, there's politics in this. This is an election year. Charlie Angus is the MP for the neighbouring riding. The MP for the riding in question, where Cat Lake is a Liberal. He has a response, and he takes a few shots at Charlie Angus, too. Have a listen.
I think it's Charlie Angus over the top, as he always is. That's Charlie Angus's style. When you're talking about isolated communities, you don't build a whole pile of houses all in one day. It takes a number of years to do that. And so I'm not so much worried about Charlie Angus as I am worried about the communities that I represent.
So watch for a discussion today with senior ministry officials and the members of the First Nation. But also worth noting that there is, of course, winter underway. They use ice roads to get there. And if there were larger infrastructure improvements to come this year, they would have to come soon before the melt starts occurring and those roads become impassable.
Let's bring you the perspective now of the head councillor for Cat Lake First Nation. He is Derek Spence, and he is there in Cat Lake this morning. Councillor Spence, thank you for the time today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Listen, we spoke to Charlie Angus. You'd invited him up to see for himself what's going on, and he told us that he went expecting to see a housing crisis, and what he found was the health crisis as a result of the housing crisis. Can you give an overall description of what it's like to live there, where mold and illnesses are just all around you? What's it like?
Well, it's not very pleasant. And myself, I lived in an older house before I moved here, and my wife was diagnosed with lupus, and we blamed that it was from the mold, because since we moved to our new home, she's been in remission, and she hasn't faced that. She's not on so much pills anymore.
That's some good news. As we look at some of these pictures, we're going to bring them up, and they're very hard to look at. The children with the skin conditions and things. Tell us about some of the worst health impacts you have seen in Cat Lake.
Well, we had a lot of people have infections with their skin diseases, eczema, dermatitis, and a lot of those other skin diseases. And in some cases, we had some people die from pneumonia, and that's a respiratory problem. And a lot of cases, people get sent out, and children get sent out, and sometimes it's difficult for our people to go to the nursing station because they get sent home and saying it's viral, and when really the problem is more severe than when they're actually diagnosed, because our clinic here in the community doesn't have the proper testing equipment to actually diagnose somebody properly.
You're far to the north of Flying community, north of Thunder Bay, so it's hard to get that kind of care. So when you look at this situation, this critical situation, you're going to be having a conference call this afternoon, I know, with federal government officials coming up at 1 o'clock, you were just telling me. And you're looking long term, but I want to talk this morning about the immediate needs. You need money for things right now. What are the top items on your list to help right now?
Well, we'd like the government to commit to bring in some sort of mobile homes for temporary housing until we can really hammer down on the major items that we need, like the housing that we're requesting. Like, we have 92 homes that need to be replaced, and out of 128 that had mold in the houses, but 92 of the houses were inhabitable. So that's what we're aiming at, and hoping they would commit to getting the people that are in immediate danger right now, you know.
So immediate need, get those trailers up there for emergency housing. I mean, that's a pretty amazing number. 80%, more than 80% of the homes in your community uninhabitable because of what we're looking at there on the screen right now. I'm going to play a little bit of a clip for you from the Prime Minister. We asked him yesterday, Councillor Spence, and we asked the new Indigenous Services Minister for comment ahead of the meeting today. This is what the Prime Minister said, aware of the situation and working on it. Let's listen to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau together.
We are working directly with the Chief and with the Council in Cat Lake. They've talked to us about what they concretely need. We're moving forward on accelerating repairs and more investments. There's always more to do, but we're doing it directly with the community.
So when you listen to what the Prime Minister said, do you support that? Do you challenge that in any way? Are you getting the ear? Are you getting the attention? Are you getting what you need from the federal government at this point?
Well, yesterday they were very particular about how their invitations are. Like, we were expecting the Minister O'Regan to come here himself. Like, this is what we want for him to see this firsthand. But they're busy sending the middle people, and we want to deal with people higher up so we can get our voices heard and get things done.